So, how deadly was the SARS disease at the time? So, we're going to measure like what made it really what connection it has to the coronavirus, and also like why what the carriers are, what the symptoms are, and mostly kind of like most of the general medical studies about the SARS virus. So the SARS virus was happened in around the early 2000s, and the important factors that came into play and affected other people was first the carriers, second the high mutation rates, and third mode of transmission. So all these factors can come into play, especially when you're dealing with an epidemic or a pandemic, and that's something we all have to be wary of when analyzing what makes it so dangerous. So, what or who can be the carriers? So, firstly, the most common one could be the bats, as there's something special about the bat immunity, which refers to like their inflammation response. And then second would be the infected people. Now, if we can relate this also to coronavirus, infected people like young people, can be carriers. They can seem to have barely any symptoms at first, but they might have the virus with them and carry to others. And then next, actually, bats have the natural ability to reduce the inflammation on their wings, and they have and I'm going to elaborate more on this. Um, Second part. So why are bats these really good carriers? So first, uh how bats can actually travel far distances and be able to carry a virus at the same time. It's mostly due to this inflammation responses. Um, Surprisingly, a bat's immune system limits responses, and as a result, it reduces pathological damage. And so what this actually means is that normally when you have a virus, your body normally tries to fight it back, and of course there's side effects. For example, aches, but because of its limited information responses, um, the bat actually don't feel any of this kind of like they don't feel any pain in a sense, especially on their wings. So that's why they're able to travel far distances, carry the virus, and a limited amount of inflammation responses. And this is also because there's this kind of protein called NLP3 that rarely reacts in bats, and which supposedly reacts a lot in other animals, especially humans. And so, if you want to really know what an LP3 is, it's a protein that acts as an inflammation sensor. So, and it often triggers the body to fight back. So once it senses that it has like this, let's say the SARS virus or the COVID-19 virus, what the body will actually do is you'll get some responses, some inflammation responses, that actually triggers the body to fight back. But bats doesn't have this problem. That's what makes them the one of the best carriers and the most effective carriers. And so, if you can sum up what the bats really are, they're kind of how all of this works is that there's less inflammation, which means that you're a better carrier and it's more effective flying. So the SARS symptoms is fever, dry cough, body aches, shortness of breath, and night chills, which also reflects how similar it is to the COVID-19 virus, and it also reflects once more how similar these symptoms are to the average flu, sorry. And remember that the average flu only lasts for 7 days, wherever other viruses can last for a longer time. So this is one of the factors you can decide whether if it's a normal flu or if you have to go check up for a virus. And if you want to link it further, this is the origin of the COVID-19 virus is from China, and the hypothesis on where it came from is the bats, bats to humans or like these animals, these wild animals, which is very common in China. When they actually, they the food they eat is actually kind of wild in a sense. So the culture allowed the spread of the virus, and we call this zoonotic disease, which spreads from an actual animal to human. And this is And there's of course you have to take up into account also the mutation rates of the mutation rate of the virus, which eventually also comes into play when you're actually dealing with viruses. And on average, the COVID-19 or the SARS virus can spread from a single person to three people. So that also makes it almost unavoidable for a person to get it once they come into contact with an infected person.